Hello everyone on all different devices, on Zoom, Facebook, YouTube. Everyone, thank you for joining me, the Tibetan Buddhist Society of Canberra's regular Sunday meditation followed by talk. So thank you for joining me. Take a couple of moments to secure your space and most importantly, your own attention. To be able to do the meditation by first of all renewing, revalidating our refuge in the Dharma, in the Buddha, in the Sangha. So important that we need to be connected in a very consistent way, but which we do not leave it as if it is happening, but it will make sure that it is checked and it is renewed and revalidated and reappreciated. And so doing refuge regularly is not just a religious merit, but it's actually an emotionally sort of boosting your capacity and checking and examining where we are at, because often people drift away by taking wrong turn, one too many, and they just don't realize how childish they have been, and they have completely breached their own sense of a commitment to the Dharma and to themselves, to others. So therefore doing the refuge is such an important part, and commitment to practice in all life situations, loving kindness and compassion. And by doing so, you will find yourself a lot easier to remain joyous. Your joy comes from goodness of your own doing, rather than waiting for someone else's do things to please your own self-importance. That's not really a cause of joy. That's a cause of kind of ordinary self-gratification. So joy is not self-gratification. Joy is delighting the good of one's own self-transformation and being able to see the good in others, and that's joyful. Some people can't see good in others at all because they don't have their own. So therefore, if they practice loving kindness, compassion, they will be able to practice joyfulness, and even those they could not possibly always relate very well, they will practice equanimity. They will just do not whip it up, or they don't react and overreact. What's that? Equanimity. Shantideva calls it, try to remain neutral and allow time to change things, and it will change things, because if you don't react, that's the best thing, best equanimity. If you overreact, then you will left with all the debris of your childishness for many months, not able to clean them, and then you're stuck with them. So equanimity is confronting on the front, or the spare in real situation, but it's got very good benefit later on. So that's why I do the prayer for refuge and for immeasurable, the beginning of all. Not I, but also others do that too. But it's really good to refresh the relevance of them. So with this, please join your hands and we'll do the prayers. O in the Buddha Dharma Sangha, I refuge enlightenment by virtue I Yendala I share Buddha to and the Buddha Dharma Sangha, I refuge enlightenment by virtue I Yendala I share Buddha to be and the Buddha Dharma Sangha, I refuge enlightenment by virtue I Yendala I share Buddha to be happiness, and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering, and the cause of suffering. May they never from the happiness that suffering. May they dwell equanimity, free from her judgment and aversion to the near and far. May her beings happiness, and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering, and the cause of suffering. May they never from the happiness that suffering. May they dwell equanimity, free from her judgment and aversion to the near and far. May her beings happiness, and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering, and the cause of suffering. May they never part from the happiness that suffering. May they dwell equanimity, free from her judgment and aversion to the near and far. So one calmly pay one's attention to the posture of the meditation, keeping your body from the bottom all the way to the top of your crown, correctly placed in the right position, and consciously scanning the posture, checking and correcting slowly and improving not only the position of the body, but also the mental knowing how each of these qualities of the posture represent intersecting the harmony of all the four elements. Earth simply means confidence, and being able to sit still and not becoming fidgety and restless. This will boost your groundedness and confidence. Water means your retention of mindfulness that holds you together in balance. So you water your mind that is so dehydrated by too much craving and wrong things. But with right mindfulness meditation, retention of mindfulness will quench your thirst of your life. So with this in mind, hold the balance. That's watering your mind. Fire burns and ripens and cooks. And the awareness to hold the body, correct posture, in good synchronicity is the maturity. Is the understanding why one sit in this posture and honoring that without being restless. So as a mature person, likewise, a conscious practitioner keeps the posture and fire the raw bit of his mind and make it ripened. And air is movement and mobility, and here it is insight and wisdom in knowing why one meditates, and thus bring the great wisdom to hold the whole posture. So one is positioning the body, knowing the significance of the posture with the four elements, and then checking and correcting, and then feel the four qualities: stillness, balance, awareness, and insight. Use this scanning of the posture in a meticulous fashion. Take mini break after a good 6 to 8 rounds of scanning the posture, and again repeat the next bout with even more greater one-pointed attention, without giving away to your laziness and forgetfulness to do the above. Calmly hold this vigil. holding the posture as the base of the support of the meditation. Now focus the attention to the incoming breath, which one consciously do the inhaling, knowing something positive that one inhales, rush in with oxygen, seeing the white positive energy coming with the oxygen, and feel inspired as you do the qualified inhalation. Likewise, as the breath permeates consciously, as you spread it and irrigate the whole body, know it touches and soothes and shifts and spread the positive energy as it streams with the blood, reddening the whole interior body, and feel rejuvenated and re-energized. And when then, as you exhale, consciously breathe out, as the carbon comes out, with that let go any thoughts, feelings, physical, emotional difficulties in one out breath with a sigh of relief. In this way, use each of these three phases of the one round breath dutifully and stay mindful, uncompromised by forgetfulness, laziness, and distraction. And use 6 or 8 rounds in one bout of effort, and then take a conscious mini break, and so as to reboost your sharpness of the attention to repeat the same bout again and again, and thus increasing your stable, calm, one-pointed stillness and attention. calmly abiding in your meditative state. Now focus your attention on the qualified round of breathing that you do each round, but try to count them uninterruptedly, and at the same time boosting preferably the clarity and precision of your attention that can be boosted by the counting. Not only your counting, but try to see the more different kind of sensation of the inhalation, the beginning, the peak, and the conclusion. Likewise, with permeation, also has a beginning, gentle beginning, then peaks the permeation, swells and inundates the whole body, and then it slowly tapers off to become beginning of the gentle beginning of exhalation, and then it peaks to the strongest form of exhalation, and then slowly it tapers off. So then you count that as one, and likewise you do the next, and you do the next, and count them mindfully to increase the greater resolution of the mindfulness, one pointedly, without any sign of boredom or dullness or forgetfulness, but instead with the union of mindfulness and introspection. Should you lose your count and notice that, just simply take a conscious mini break and repeat again, start again from the one. But you succeed to count without losing the count. Just try to hold the attention, not only the counting, but increase the clarity and the precision of your cognizance of each qualified round of breathing that is almost like super qualified or enhanced by the counting technique. And calmly stay one with the feelings of each round of breath. So with the meditation now, we'll do the short prayer before the teachings. O yenda Buddha Dhamma Sangha Friendship Lajame Bhavaja Agevendala Ajare Buddha So we do that's the refuge we'll do. So the theme of these sessions are Buddhist insights and how to make them as causes of sanity, because if insight is inside of that any valuable purposes there, it should really add to our sanity. So there's a fairly broad topic, and you are most welcome to send questions, since we have all these platforms on Zoom as well as Facebook and YouTube. So I'll try to have a clean in if people have any comments, but I would like to focus as a specifically how the relevance of Buddhist insights in relation to success and failure. Of course, in Buddhism, we don't really talk these two as very important at all. But probably this whole idea of this success and failure comes under the Buddhist topic of 8 worldly dharmas. So the 8 worldly dharmas are to do with gain and loss, because people can think they have success when they have gain, and then they think they're failing their loss. And likewise, they could think they have success when they have pleasure, and they think they're failing when they have pain. So gain and loss, pain and pleasure, and then good reputation versus bad reputation. So when people have good reputation, they think they're success, and they think bad reputation is a failure. And then the next two sets is praise and blame. When people praise you, and then you think you are you're succeeding, and people blaming you, you are failing. So these 4 pairs are called 8 worldly dharmas. So I thought the whole idea of success and failure comes under these 4. And how do we make sure that we do not fall into the say when you have gain, good reputation, and pleasure and praise? People might think that's a great thing. Have that maybe success. Worldly people will think that's a success, but in Buddhism, to getting attached to success is a worldly dharma. It's already a worldly thing. As a one who has a Buddhist insight should learn not to get attached to any of these 4 worldly dharmas that are positive, that are relatively positive, because if you have gain in terms of material gain or status, or maybe income or respect or status in society, promotion, all of these things are in society. So society, people strive very hard to gain these things, yeah? And in Buddhism, what is the Buddhist insight is, sure, while we may also rejoice someone having gain and pleasure and a good reputation and people praising you and so on, but as a Buddhist, we should think all things are impermanent. Success usually attracts jealousy. Success usually usually attracts contempt, and success is often quickly becomes a cause of a problem. Why? If you get attached to them. So it's important that even if you have certain advantage, whatever, say, not just in relation to yourself as individual, but to someone we love or respect, if his or her reputation is down, quite a lot of people think they're shamed. They're not Buddhists. If someone they love is in disrepute, then they all feel devastated. So that shows these Buddhist students have no Buddhist insight. They're attached to the reputation. They're attached to the kind of someone. But instead they should see everyone's success is like a pendulum. Sometimes in their life their activities will go up, at another time they will go down. It's a very nature thing. So instead of being so attached to the gain and aversion to the loss, one should hold a friendship. We were talking last week about the Sangha. How should we hold as a Sangha? How we should value the Sangha friendship. We should hold our Sangha friendship not intimidated by these kind of worldly dharmas goes up and down, because we are there to, like nurses have to look after whatever patient. They don't say, I don't want to look after a black patient or male patient or female patient. If they say discriminatory, so they will lose the job if they seem to be discriminating who they serve. So as a Sangha members, we should relate with the even if some difficulties are there, but one should see that difficulties impermanent. Difficulties are difficult to accept at the time, but it also lowers one's pride that one's own. Even if you suffer from bad reputation or people blame you or someone blame you, someone you love or respect, but you shouldn't be offended by that as a Buddhist. You should see that as a nature. Even Buddha was loved by many but hated by quite a handful of people. So therefore it is nature of sentient beings. According to their perception, they will see these things. Therefore one should not get caught in the worldly dharmas of gain towards someone you love or respect as something caused to make you feel really puffed up, but even their success is a temporary. How long is the success? Everything in Buddha said is impermanent. And the success is probably more like an interpretation by people for keen Mahayana Bodhisattva practitioner. If someone mistreats you, put you down, it's considered to be lucky for your practice. Considered to be a great blessing in disguise. Because people put you down, that's the time you have great opportunity to overcome your ego. So any kind of blaming people do, any kind of bad reputation people to smear your name is good for the Mahayana Buddhist practitioner, because for them they have to transform those adversities into the part of practice of Dharma. So therefore bad reputation is not a kind of tragedy on its own, but your response to it may turn into tragedy. If you show aversion to the bad reputation, then it is really not Buddhist insight. If bad reputation should be treated with humility, saying there are lots of things, lots of room for me to improve, to become perfect, but since I'm not yet reached the perfection, of course I will suffer bad reputation. As a Buddhist would actually accept the tolerant, accept with that kind of disrepute with tolerance. That's Buddhist insight. And that's actually cause of sanity. Because otherwise someone wanted to sort of blame you something and you blame them back. That's nothing Buddhist about it. You try to defend your clean name or something. That's not Buddhist. You know that all sentient beings are deluded, and if someone notices your flaws, you should thank them for noticing your flaws. So it's Buddhist insight usually is that if someone causes you to recognize your own faults that you don't have, you have no ability to recognize, then you wouldn't see that as a failure. That's a good, because you're now told by people to help you to recognize your own fault. So not noticing your mistakes by other people is not a success, being noticed, your failure is noticed by other people, and then when they treat you with whatever their level of knowledge or realization, if they treat you, someone will treat you kindly, others will treat you contemptuously, others will treat you indifferently. You wouldn't notice, even if there are 3 people who notice that you have done such a terrible thing, and if you realize, oh, terrible, now I'm terrible, I am hit the lowest bottom because everybody noticed my fault. But you wouldn't realize, you wouldn't believe how differently these 3 people treat you. So that shows that you have the opportunity to take that what appears to be tragedy of failure as an excellent opportunity to measure your own ability to use the sanity, cause of sanity. What is humility? You accept your mistakes. Buddha said, seeing the true origin of your sorrow is your own affliction, not other people's fault. Noticing other people's fault is not a cause of delight for you. But someone points faults of yours, then it should not be seen as a failure, but it's seen as an assistant. They're assisting you to show what fault flows you do not see by yourself. So therefore, unless one choose to subscribe to the worldly dharma, one wants people to sing praise to you, and then you think that's a success because 9 out of 10 people praises you. You think it's success. You think so. That's not. If you have, 4 out of 10, even sort of praises you, you shouldn't still feel delighted by that, because those 6 people don't. So therefore, it's success and failure is only a cause of testing of your how much you have fallen into the worldly trap, worldly dharmas. So in either case, even say people praises you as a Buddhist insight and causes sanity, is one say, oh, they are praising me because they are so generous and kind to me, but they really don't know many of my hidden flaws. That's the Buddhist insight. That's the Buddhist insight. Oh, I got lots of afflictions, and they only notice few, but they don't know many of my flaws. So instead of being intimidated by people pointing your flaws, showing people showing your flaws is not a failure. It's maybe they have good intention to show you. There's people who care about you tell you what your flaws are. Not because they themselves are flawless, but they probably care about you. They want you to make progress, and maybe they're aware that we are not aware. And because they know that we are not aware, they're trying to help us in a long run. So is that a tragedy? No. For a true Buddhist, any flaws that we could not detect, if somebody helps us, we usually pray the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to help us to turn ourselves to Dharma. What does it mean, turn out to Dharma? They will show you what is non-Dharma. Only by showing what is non-Dharmic way, then we will know how to direct ourselves to the Dharmic way. So therefore, when we say success and failure is a very, very mundane, materialistic way for the Buddhist to a person to say if a practitioner who may be seen as a staying, like if he or she is a monastic and they stayed as a monastic for life and there's no sign of them disrobing or something, you would think that's success, isn't it? Oh, he stayed as a monk for 20 years is success, but you will never know what trials and tribulations he's going through. So lots of passive aggression. Lots of people are actually someone wrote to me the other day that he has become a Christian, and he said, I'm sorry, I have to renounce the Buddhist refuge, and of course I wouldn't say that, terrible, you have lost your Buddhist faith and you have become Christian. We wouldn't never say that. Because he's done quite a few of those U-turns before, so that to me is not at all a shock, and this is exactly we have to be kindful in saying that whether that is a successful journey, maybe, or failure. Would the person regard himself as a failure because he's not stayed as a Buddhist? We don't know. I'm not going to pass any judgment. I'm not going to say, oh, what a tragedy, you lost refuge in the Triple Chair. I wouldn't say that. I could say that, but I don't. Why? Because in Buddhism you don't. The Buddhist insight is you don't say those things. The person just trying to share with you because they have been long associated with us as a Buddhist friend, and then telling us in writing. He said, oh, I probably mentioned it before, but I haven't written to you before, and they felt really obliged they should tell you. But he's done that quite a few things, quite a few different religious organizations, so not just Buddhist to Christian, but Jehovah's Witness to other things like that. Some people are doing that. I mean, real success and failure is a very materialistic way of assessing ourselves. How long does success last anyway? How long does the failure stay as failure? Without many failures, people really do not know how to make progress at all. So sometimes it is a good idea to have quite a few blunders or failures, and then people realize they say that my latest teacher is my latest mistake. So if the latest mistake is the teacher, because then that teaches us where we fumbled, where we blundered, and sure, how we perform and how we perform will have its pros and cons on the given situation, but how long is a failure? A lot of people have learned to accepting failure is the most powerful way to humiliate your ego. We want our ego to be humiliated. We want someone to help us to humiliate our ego. We don't want to help someone to boost our ego, do we? That's not Buddhist. We try to realize the emptiness of self and try to practice selflessness. If one is always biased to success and therefore want gain, pleasure, and good reputation, and only praise, if we want this, that's not Buddhist, No, if we show aversion to the opposite of these four, we couldn't handle loss. The teaching says, think of impermanence. Because if you think of impermanence, you will be able to accept loss. If you accept loss, it's not a personal tragedy, but it's the nature of all things. Loss is only experienced by people who are attached to things, They call loser, but we want to become perfect loser, We want to be a perfect loser is one who loses, but without lamenting his loss, because he never came with anything. We came empty-handed in this world, and what he's got to lose, So therefore, loss is a kind of a concept of materialistic attachment, Buddhists try to practice renunciation. Renunciation is not a loss. We don't call renunciation as a vow of poverty in Buddhism. In other religion traditions, they call the monastic vows a vow of poverty. It's not a vow of poverty. Renunciation means it's a vow of actually abundance. It's a vow of abundance, Those true monks live in very simplicity, but they are abundant with this joy and discipline and humility and devotion and discipline. This becomes the real. Looks like they don't have this, they don't have house, they don't have this, they don't have a bank account, they don't have a house, they don't have this. society would see that, oh, he hasn't got anything. I've got nothing. They think it's a terrible thing to have nothing. But actually, for a Buddhist to realize nothing is a really good thing. Realize nothing. Even things we have, we should realize nothing, let alone realizing nothing as nothing. I mean, so it looks like a real blessing. To have nothing is really very not so far from realizing emptiness, So if we have to realize emptiness of all things, we might as well realize lack of good reputation, lack of gain, loss, and only blame and no praise. If that's happening, then you realize emptiness of gain, emptiness of reputation or pleasure or praise, And why emptiness meaning all of these things comes, but they just comes in and goes quickly. So how long is success worthy of holding on to, and how long is failure you have to lament? Because everything is so constantly changing. So therefore it is a worldly trap to think that I'm succeeding or something. Maybe your parents or your family would think what is success, what is failure, because they will only assess it mundane, materialistic terms. They wouldn't know how to they wouldn't know how to assess it, and spiritually speaking. So that's why it is important to look from the Buddhist point of view. So I'm just checking if there's any questions here. So just to greet everyone joining us from Facebook. Thank you for all joining us. So I'll just continue. So in this way, when we talk about Buddhist insight, we have to always remember the impermanence of things, emptiness of things, and unsatisfactoriness of things, and how realizing these three really gives us peace. Nirvana is peace. So if we realize that having success and attachment to itself is suffering. Suffering comes from attachment to success. And the suffering comes trying to get success. So success and failure are both two sides of the same coin, If you have success, you will have failure. If you can't handle so I would say the loss, you should accept loss. Because you are rejecting loss, that's a loss. Otherwise, if you accept loss, it's a success. It's a gain. You actually, as soon as you lose something, and you accept that, then it's not a suffering. Then it enables you to practice renunciation from your aversion to loss. Yeah. Your aversion to loss. You're able to renounce aversion to loss, Because if monastics willingly give their home and possessions and so on, and being able to do that is, we usually, if somebody become monastic, we will congratulate him, won't you? In the worldly terms, when man and woman get married, we congratulate them. We congratulate them to signing a pact to suffer together, And when the monastic takes a vows, we congratulate him for his humility to accept loss. Accept renunciation. He now don't want to seek and strive to these worldly problems. So for the monastic to renounce is a success. For lay people to find a partner in suffering is a success. He found Mr. Right or something. Gosh, how long does the Mr. Right last, How long is the Mr. Right successfully right? Maybe a couple of years, maybe there is a Mr. Right, but how long does Mr. Right dwindles into Mr. Wrong? and so therefore, how long does the congratulation last, We congratulate people marrying together, but when they separate, we don't congratulate them. We should, From the Buddhist point of view, we should, congratulations, happy parting. Happy party, you know. So there should be partying also for the sex, for the pleasure, isn't it? Partying is for the pleasure, and union is also for the pleasure. But no, they only want meeting is they think is a success, and partying is a failure. I mean, how could you have? That's. I mean, you cannot create cause and not accept the result, because all partying is a result of meeting. All partying is the result of meeting. So if the meeting is success, partying should not be regarded as a failure. But in these worldly terms, they will. They say, so partying should be treated with some Buddhists who have parted from each other. I think there are quite a few, I must say. They really are. They have parted, but they're still friends. They're even better friends. Why? because now they have actually much better relationship and uncomplicated by other things, you know. So because of the meeting together, is a gain for both. Or he met him and she met her, or whatever. Or nowadays he meet he too. These days he meet he is a success. She meet she is a success. You never know what you're going to meet next time. You call this success, you know. And when you're parting, you think it's a failure. No, according to Buddhism, if you don't treat very carefully, all meetings are inevitable partings. So therefore, all meetings are just temporary success. Temporary success, but to think it is success ultimately is not a Buddhist insight. It's attachment. Its cause of suffering is holding and wanting it to last longer than it actually does. And then it becomes cause of suffering. Why? Because they don't have Buddhist insight. If they have Buddhist insight, what they do when they part, they renounce. They renounce the bad mix they bring to each other. And therefore one say, look, I'm not bringing any good mix to your bringing. And these two are no longer melting together very well. Let's take different ways. So that's a Buddhist insight, to renounce without any aversion to each other, without any aversion to each other, and all partings must be practiced as a success. If you want a parting as a success, your parting should be a success. Why are the partings not celebrated? That's the problem. In Buddhism, when somebody renounces home, we congratulate them. Why doesn't ordinary lay people part? We don't congratulate each other. We should congratulate. We don't do we, in a way, because we don't have the Buddhist insight. We have these worldly expectations. Worldly expectation. Who did what? And then we think the other failed you or you failed them. Or both has ruined each other's time together. People have, and that kind of aversion, lots of people's depression in the modern world is not only because they have difficulty, but they spend 5 years together as a loving couple and 20 years ever since as a hating couple. So what's the benefit of that? So 20 years of hating, 5 years of loving? Which one is taking more time? So why can't one see the being able to part from each other with grace and forgiveness and understanding and the differences? So therefore, parting doesn't have to be failure. Parting doesn't have to be failure. People's parting doesn't have to be a nasty one. You can actually part with great dignity, give more than you want to take from the other, and then true parting. And true parting, I'm sure quite a few Buddhists among our midst are parting, and they're parting in a graceful way. They're no longer staying as they don't want anything to do with it. That kind of attitude. Some people want nothing to do with the other. Of course, that's not Buddhist. Buddhists, we have to work with all objects of loving kindness. Not just friends and strangers, but even very difficult parting objects should be objects of loving kindness and forgiveness and compassion. Therefore, you're parting from someone And because even though the two adults are parting, but there are lots of other people associated with your life, the children included, grandparent and parent included. So how do you make sure the parting doesn't cause a lot of fractures in the already divided community in the world? So Buddhist insight is therefore that all things are impermanent. So therefore all things changes. So you do not lay blame on the other as a cause of the parting. No, you should think that you have no role in complicating the parting at all. It takes two to meet. It takes two to part. Sometimes it might take third to part, that's fine. It's mainly if the two didn't have existed, third could not cause you to part. So everything happens due to many causes condition. Even if the two people parting, one shouldn't think it's entirely his fault that I had to part, or entirely my fault I part. Buddhist teaching says things happen due to many causes condition, not just because you or something other than you, not just two. Chandrakirti totally refute the arising of things from self, from the other, from both, or non-cause. So that's the reason why we have to use this logic, is so that we do not fall into the trap of blaming the other. Because you could not continue a relationship or continue the job or continue the position or whatever, as that kind of enmity is going to kind of wear your life down. So therefore, parting with enmity is a true waste of your time. Parting with gratitude and deep down, whatever the difference is, but see that as a great opportunity to accept the nature of life that is unsatisfactory. And it's just nature of life is unsatisfactory, not nature of the relationship is unsatisfactory. Life itself is unsatisfactory, with or without relations. It doesn't matter with whom or without whom. If the relationship is only unsatisfactory, then just have no relationship. Just live in the cave and drop all the food from the sky. Yeah. It doesn't happen, So life is unsatisfactory. Relationship is not necessarily unsatisfactory itself. So because unsatisfactoriness is caused by greed and hatred and selfish and all the karma created under the sway of this affliction, unsatisfactoriness is not caused by the other. That's a Buddhist insight. Because usually when you see the couples part or separate, they always say bad things about other people and how the other person failed my life type of thing. You couldn't believe it. And that's what the fractures the whole community. But as a Buddhist and who like to have some insight and develop a cause of sanity, how to now live without the person in your life, you should not speak ill and as they are the cause of your loss, as they lost you, or you lost them because they're bad behavior. When you start thinking like that, that's not insight. That's not cause of sanity. That's cause of insanity. That makes people miserable, they're depressed, they're angry, and they're blaming, and they're guilty. So these are not none of these are cause of sanity. These are all cause of insanity. These are all causes of insanity. So instead of becoming insane, one need to see, sure, both of us tried our best, and we have learned a lot from this, and it just happened we have to part from here a little bit differently. And this has taught me a lot. And then look at them with some gratitude and send them with some grace and goodwill towards them. That's the cause of sanity. Now, when people part, and then they not only part with the enmity and aversion, but they carry that baggage wherever they go. And so some people go away, and then they're hating not only their partner, but all the gender of his or hers. And that is not sanity, That is not sanity. Not all. If you lump all male to be like your ex-husband, all female to be your ex-wife or something, that's your biggest problem. Is you always externalize the cause of your misery is external. That's not Buddhist insight. That's the cause of insanity. That is suffering, and not realizing origin is insanity and enmity. So because enmity is the root cause of suffering, and selfishness is the root cause of suffering, one therefore accept that and then therefore not get attached to the notion of success and thinking what society thinks is, oh, their relationship failed, and then think that his life has been doomed and cursed by that. Sure, it may have taken a little while for the person to recover their goodness, but one should never constantly limp as a result of that. This is not first life, this is our first life. There have been many unfinished relationships from past lives. We have to pick up pieces and then and then try to repair their kindness in a one way or another unconsciously. You wouldn't believe some people have to do so much without realizing, why did I that do for? But you had to do that time, karmically speaking. So therefore, being able to accept this time that you spend with a lot of sweat and tear, but in the meantime, in this life, you don't have much to show. You don't have much to show, except humility. If you have humility, it is good for you. If you have arrogance and not able to accept loss, not able to accept blame, not being able to accept sort of criticism by other people, that's a real failure. Failure isn't receiving the criticism and blame to you, but failure is when you cannot use those things as cause of humility. We deliberately bow down before the Buddha on the floor. I mean, the Buddha doesn't need any of our bows. Purpose of that is we bowed before the Buddha as a cause of sanity so that we're actually able to accept our own limitations, our own predicament, our own weaknesses, and when things have really proven to be so. When you accept that, not only it remedies your pride, but also it boosts your confidence how to walk differently from there onwards. You will not be blaming someone or lamenting how difficult it was, but you see them all as a result of your own karma ripening. And because you accept that as your own karma ripening, it's a Buddhist insight not to lay blame on others. If you lay blame on others, there is no Buddhist in you, let alone the sanity of it. So if you accept responsibility, doesn't mean that you accept all the wrongs of others. Other persons are wrong. You don't have to even highlight it. They will be caught up by the karmic consequences of that without you having to bark anymore. You don't have to highlight, or you don't have to police other people's mistake, and you don't have to think as that if you don't highlight it, they will go unnoticed, they go unpunished. You should not worry. That's not a Buddhist insight. Person will be, that's what the teaching says, Lene sala mimin dola mimin simbe pungbom bashik laos. The karma does not ripen on the soil or on the rock or on the wood. Karma ripens to the very aggregate on the basis of which the person creates the karma. So at least on the aggregate of consciousness, maybe on this physical body, maybe the person doesn't experience the karma he created because it doesn't quite ripen that quickly, but his consciousness, stream of mind stream that will flow into next life will. So we don't have to worry. Some people think that if they don't act on it, the person will go unpunished or something. That's not Buddhist. Who want to do that? Who want to do waste of that? So therefore, it's very, very un-Buddhist to behave like that. As a karma can go unpunished unless you took the great effort to highlight it so that the person doesn't go unnoticed. Something like that. The person doesn't understand about the workings of the law of cause and effect. So that's why it is important. It may be some people may not be instantly punished by the karma, instantly punished by the karma, and you want them to suffer instantly, that's your enmity you are now haunted by. It's not them not ripening the karma of what they did. They will. If that's going to give you any relief, they will suffer the consequences. So what's the relief you're going to get? Not noticing your own ill will going to future cause of your suffering. You are not noticing that. That's not insight. That's a lack of insight. That's ignorance. So because of that, it's important to, sometimes we might think, if I can sort of make this society clean of some bad things and highlight him and point him or her or their fault, then I'm doing some great job. They don't realize we are doubling the negative karma by our own reaction and overreaction. Out of enmity, out of aggression, we create more negative karma because we think we could clean somebody's karma, isn't it? This doesn't mean that we should not try to collectively improve the society as a whole skillfully. This through personal spiritual development, we can enable them to see for themselves. But there is no such karma of wrongdoing of others that you will be able to clean. Let alone Buddha could not clean it. Buddha said, I cannot clean or wash other people's misdeeds. When he says that, it doesn't mean that Buddha should not be perceived as a witness of the karma and so on, but it means that you should not get involved into thinking that you can mop up the fault of somebody else so the world will be clean ever since they're like that. But your own effort try to react and overreact that is going to create more negative consequences. Because consequences have consequences. And so therefore, being able to tolerate someone's karma or action actually purify our own karma. So therefore, it is our own sanity, causes our sanity. It's not that we are turning blind eye to them, but we cannot turn blind eye to other people's karma, but we cannot change other people's karma. Not that much anyway. Those that we could change, there is only skillful way, only through Dharma. Themselves finding the way, they will change the karma. Not by trampling on somebody who has fallen. You will never be able to mop up. You have to help the person who has fallen by whatever his fault is. You don't trample on them. That's not the way to mop up their karma. You try to help the other person's karma by themselves being able to see it through their own ability to understand the Dharma. If they don't, we could not possibly mop up other people's karma and think the whole world has been cleaned by our duty. That kind of, we have to fix this world by my righteous action is not a Buddhist insight. That's impatience. That's self-importance. So that's why when we talk about Buddhist insight and causes of sanity, we're talking about what choice of action we choose that are sane. Often our reactions and overreactions becomes not cause of sanity. We thought we were sane enough to see what's wrong out there, but our reaction has a completely different consequences. So we have to be responsible for our own reaction has consequences. Don't believe that your reaction is justified and all the consequences have to be consequence faced by the other. They will not. You have to face the consequences of your own reaction and overreaction. So not reacting that way, but practicing proactively with kindness, loving kindness, and compassion is the Buddhist sanity. The sanity is practicing patience. What does patience do? Patience cause a pause to the suffering from escalating. Whereas reaction duplicates and escalates the problem, thinking they are fixing the problem, they're actually making the tripling and doubling the problem even more. So not being able to have that is not a Buddhist insight. It's ignorance. It's a lack of insight. That's called ignorance, absence of knowing. So when we meditate and when we try to change our modify our discipline, physical, verbal, or mind. And when we meditate and when we try to change, mostly try to become cognizant of our own attitude that we need to change, then we become, you can see how much of cause of sanity there is in how we try to change ourselves. But the fact that we can change others is only by our changing our attitude, the aversion towards other people and enmity towards other people. Try to develop loving kindness, compassion towards the other person, and that is sanity. Being enmity with somebody's wrongdoing is only going to only going to make you become more just as insane as they who has perpetrated that negative action upon you and others. And making peace means that actively making peace. So peace is actually whereby you don't retaliate the abuse with abuse, aggression with aggression, hate with hate. And you can see already so much pain and suffering caused by that. And now what is the alternative to that? One who is able to have space. They say, give me some space. Why you have to give, so that you can gain some insight, so you can gain a clear choice of what are the alternatives you have up your sleeves. Most people who have no sanity don't have any alternatives. So a person who's practicing the way of the Buddha at least have some alternatives. Finding the alternative and giving time to find an alternative is patience, is power, is what we call pause and calmness. And then if you begin to see a couple of alternatives, it is discovering the alternatives is kind of having different ways of reacting. If you find alternatives, then that means you know that your old kind of habitual reaction, and you realize hasn't been very sane result. At the time you thought they were right, but subsequently you wish you didn't react that way. And that's why we need to have the clarity of mind, the insight, to cause the sanity to develop. When you don't have the insight of the problem, you have a misreading of the problem, and therefore the misreading only gives you a result that is incorrect. When you have correct reading, that is insight, that you have to see impermanent things as impermanent, the thing will change itself. As all things are impermanent. So maybe you just have to allow a little bit of time. And then the moment you allow maybe half a day, things have changed already. It did that. Not that you ignore that, but there wasn't the same thing that you thought was a big problem. How big is the problem? How long does the problem last? Because even problems are impermanent, except that those we constantly perpetuate in our head. Even the problems that we create in our head is impermanent. They were small, they were made very big, So that's impermanent. Now, we are good at making small problems very big, but why can't we reverse that? We can make big problems small. If you have this insight, even big problems are not by itself big, Big is not big by itself. Big becomes a lump together and then become big, There is no really big problem by itself, A couple of hours ago there was no problem. Then a few moments later it looked like a real issue, and then all of a sudden you become middle of it. Then you become the one who is actually whipping it up more, and then you think the problem is too much. You don't realize how much you're whipping it up. So that's how the small problem become very big, because you didn't realize, you have no insight that everything is impermanent. Now, if you reverse the impermanence, you can slowly water down the problem, and then the problem itself also impermanent. So when the Buddha says thinking of impermanence is the insight, we have to use the different strategies to change our mode of perception, the kind of opinion we have. When our opinions are changeable, then you have the insight. When you're so fixated and fundamentally driven with your own attitude and perception and opinion, you haven't got a Buddhist insight. You have got the just ego-driven ignorance as usual. and you will be dumbfounded very soon. But when you hesitated there and then from reacting, that's the peace. That's the peace. That's the space giver that you usually don't have. So one who has the Buddhist insight practice a little bit of tolerance, a little bit of gentleness, and then things have changed. Because things have changed, the problem hasn't gone bad to worse because you weren't whipping it up. People are whipping without knowing they're whipping it up. And when they're not cognizant of their own thoughts and attitude, of course they don't know that they're whipping it up. This self-cognizance of its own attitude is the cause of sanity, because then there is self-control. You can control your thoughts from your words and from your deeds. When you can do that, that's the cause of sanity, is you are able to prevent undesirable consequences from your childish reaction. So you might have to accept on the real time, maybe as a weak, maybe you didn't react at all. Look like you're a patient. Some people think you are guilty. Let them think that, But you rather let the people think that, then you think you are right, and then you get driven. People think you're brave or something. You get driven, and all of a sudden you realize how much the problem has got bad to worse. And all those people who thought that you were brave, they were just fueling your arrogance through your ego. And those who have taught you how to practice tolerance and forgiveness and renunciation and so on, you thought they were really sort of not helping you then, but accept the blames and so on. At the time it was bitter, But when you did, you thank them later on. Thank goodness you helped me then to do that. Very few will do the opposite, because most people are driven by their righteousness. Buddhist insight is you have to renounce righteousness. You have renounced reaction. You don't have to become a monastic to renounce. Monastic may renounce home or beard or hair or something like that. That would be easy. If you shave every day, if you shave your hair every day, if that's a renunciation, we can do that every morning, everybody shave in the morning. That's not renunciation. Real renunciation is renunciation of enmity, renunciation of greed, renunciation of righteousness and self-importance. This is a real renunciation. That's a real Buddha would have liked that. True cause of suffering is true cause of suffering is selflessness. Renounce self-importance. Doesn't matter what people say to you or about you, as long as you don't perpetuate it by your intolerance and self-importance. So it is a Buddhist insight to be able to practice that, and then at that time, because the cause of sanity doesn't come very quickly, Cause of sanity doesn't come very quickly. Cause of sanity comes after a long suffering and lot of humiliation of the ego. Very good for you. The ego needs to be humiliated, The prostration is to humiliate your ego, Prostration is not to boost your ego. Prostration is to humiliate your ego, how long we suffered. And we do that in front of the Buddha out of his wonderful qualities. We feel really like prostrating people. But whole purpose of that is to humiliate our ego, So when you do that quite a lot of time, the merit has then given you this cause of sanity. And now you realize that it is humility that is the real cause of cause of sanity. Arrogance and self-importance is the exact cause of insanity. Which is success, which is failure. Let people judge it. But you, who has some little bit of insight of Buddha Dharma, know exactly what not to subscribe to, what to unsubscribe. Oh, thank you. So that's all I have to say. Here a few comments, but no particular questions. Thank you very much, everybody. And we will do the dedication merits. I think, thank you for everyone who has joined us on all three platforms here, Zoom, Facebook, and as well as YouTube. So please share to your friends. That's the whole idea. Yeah. That's right. Instead of, I've just noticed there's one in the chat box. Instead of striving to gain how to live meaningfully, also make a living. Of course, I think cows do very well. Cows are not striving to gain anything, but they're regularly grassing. They are just enjoying the grass in the paddy, particularly in this year's wet spring. Yeah, so I think what they call right livelihood, moderation, and not greed, but do a little bit of work and always believe in humanity. If you're generous, you will always be. Buddha himself said, "My followers will never die of starvation." So I don't think there are people dying of starvation. That's the issue. But of course, a reasonable. How many people in Australia? How many people? Huge percentage. I'm not exactly sure. How many of the people are disabled, are sick, are jobless, have intellectual, physically disabled with various medical conditions? They don't have to strive to make a living at all, gain at all. They are provided quite a lot of by the rest of the community's valid contributions. We are really one big family. We should believe in the humanity, and we should never think that we will be disadvantaged by society if I don't strive hard, type of thing. I don't think striving hard is a Buddhist way, you know. But when Buddha said striving hard before he passed away, he meant practice strive dharmically, and you will never go hungry. Food in the mouth, you know, clothes on the back, shelter over your head, and medicine when you get sick. And these are all really four basic requisites we need. And now having just enough of this is not a failure. And having more than that is not a success. So this is what the middle way probably means. You know, what are you thinking? Thank you very much. That's all, everyone. We'll do the dedication merits. Oh, by this merit, may we overcome the river, again homeless. May I liberate from the ocean of Buddha designated here in the Mahayana teaching, whatever merit I have accrued, may hope because levels to the Mahayana teaching, courage manjushi nyuvodi asama trabadra life follow it all the example I should all the matter the excellent body jida tebawet anayadans where has been born freely without generation. Thank you very much. Stay in the middle way.